My name is Regina Lamson. I'm 28 years old. When I was 8 years old, my parents left me screaming and chasing their car at a train station. They laughed as they called me their worthless spare and bet money on whether I could survive the night alone. 20 years later, this morning, my phone exploded with 29 missed calls. Not for forgiveness. They need my bone marrow for the new designer daughter they created to replace me. They thought I was still that broken little girl they threw away. They're about to learn a very expensive lesson, and this time, I'm the one who sets the price. If you've ever been treated like you were nothing more than a tool or a disappointment, you're not alone in this story. Please comment to let me know you're still here, and please continue accompanying me. It started at 6:47 in the morning, Denver time. My phone was vibrating so hard it fell off the nightstand. I woke up nauseous. 8 weeks pregnant will do that to you. The kind of nausea that sits in your throat like a promise and a warning at the same time. Micah was still asleep next to me, one arm thrown across my side of the bed. I reached down for the phone. 29 missed calls, all from the same area code, 858, San Diego County. My stomach dropped in a way that had nothing to do with pregnancy. I hadn't seen that area code in 20 years. Not since I was 8 years old. Not since the day my parents drove away from Santa Fe Depot and left me screaming on the platform. The voicemail started at 11:18 the night before. I'd been asleep. The phone on silent because Micah's a paramedic, and we learned early that midnight calls never bring good news. I sat on the edge of the bed, pressed play on the first message. A woman's voice. Professional. Clipped. Ms. Brennan, this is UCSD Medical Center, Transplant Coordination. We have an urgent matter regarding a pediatric patient. Please return this call as soon as possible. Ms. Brennan. My adopted name. They didn't even know I'd kept my maiden name when I got married. Lamson. The name I was born with. The name I chose to keep because it was mine before they threw me away. Second message. Same voice, less professional. Ms. Brennan, Regina, this is critical. We need to speak with you about tissue compatibility. The patient's condition is time-sensitive. Please call. Third message. A different voice. Older, shaking. Regina, please. I know you don't owe us anything, but Paige is 12 years old. She's dying. You're the only match. Please just hear us out. I deleted it without saving. Paige. They'd named her Paige. I listened to 6 more messages. The transplant coordinator. My biological mother. My biological father's cold clinical tone explaining tissue typing and HLA markers like I was a medical journal. Not the daughter he'd abandoned at a train station. Micah woke up, saw my face. What's wrong? I handed him the phone. Watched him scroll through the call log. 29 calls, 12 voicemails, 3 text messages I hadn't opened yet. Your biological parents, he said. Not a question. The ones who left me at a train station. Yes, those ones. He sat up. Put his hand on my back. What do they want? Bone marrow. I said it flat. Like ordering coffee. Like it meant nothing. But my hands were shaking. I'm a genetic counselor. I work with families facing hereditary diseases every single day. I know what a transplant coordinator calling means. I know what time-sensitive pediatric patient translates to in real terms. A child is dying, and according to the voicemails, that child is my half-sister. The sister I didn't know existed. I opened my work laptop, logged into the National Marrow Donor Program database. It's part of my job. I have access, legal access. I typed in the patient name from the voicemail. Paige Garrison, date of birth, June 18, 2013, 8 years after they abandoned me. They'd had another child. The system loaded her medical profile. Acute lymphoblastic leukemia. Diagnosed September 15, 2025. Current status, urgent transplant needed. Standard donor search, no matches found. Sibling search, 1 match identified. Me, 10 out of 10 HLA markers, perfect compatibility. I stared at the screen. At the date of birth, June 2013. I did the math in my head. I was 16 years old when she was born, living with Helen and Roger Brennan, my adoptive parents, going to high school, learning what a normal family looked like, and my biological parents were making another child. Micah read over my shoulder. Jesus Christ. I clicked through to the genetic records. The fields you're not supposed to look at unless the family consents. But she's my sister, biologically. That gives me some access. EVF, in vitro fertilization. PGD, pre-implantation genetic diagnosis. HLA typing, tissue compatibility screening, embryo selection. The same procedure, the same clinic, the same fucking process they'd used to create me. I closed the laptop, ran to the bathroom, threw up. Not from pregnancy this time. I need to tell you about the train station, about what actually happened. Because the hook I gave you at the start, that's the version I remember, the version that's burned into my nervous system. But there's more to it. Context that makes it worse. It was May 2005. I was 8 years old. My brother Owen had died 13 months earlier. Leukemia. He was 9 years old. I was born in 1997 through IVF. My parents were both highly educated. My father, Dr. Felix Garrison, was an oncologist. My mother, Beatrice, was a nurse before she became a stay-at-home mom. When Owen was diagnosed with leukemia at 13 months old, they went to a fertility clinic, La Jolla Reproductive Medicine. They wanted another child. Specifically, they wanted a child who could save Owen. The clinic used a procedure called pre-implantation genetic diagnosis. They created 8 embryos from my mother's eggs and my father's sperm. They tested all 8 for HLA compatibility with Owen, human leukocyte antigens, the markers that determine if a bone marrow transplant will work. 7 embryos didn't match, 1 did. That embryo became me. I was born in October 1997. They harvested my cord blood the day I was born, used it for Owen's first transplant when I was 6 months old. It didn't work. When I was 3, they harvested my bone marrow. Second transplant. It didn't work. When I was 6, they tried again. Third transplant. Owen's body rejected it. He died in March 2004. I was 6 years old. I don't remember much about Owen. I remember he was always sick. I remember sitting in hospital waiting rooms. I remember my mother crying a lot. I remember my father's silence. I remember being told that Owen needed me, that I was special, that I could save him. I couldn't. For 13 months after Owen died, I lived in a house that felt like a tomb. My father stopped talking to me. My mother looked at me like I was a wound that wouldn't close. I didn't understand it then. I do now. I was born to save Owen. When I failed, I had no purpose. In May 2005, my parents told me we were going on a drive. My father was driving. My mother was in the passenger seat. I was in the back. We drove to Santa Fe Depot, the train station in downtown San Diego. In the car, my father said to my mother, "This worthless spare couldn't even save him. Why are we still pretending?" I remember that exactly. Worthless spare. My mother was crying. She said, "Felix, she's 8 years old." He said, "She failed. The experiment failed. Let's see if she can survive on her own." Then he pulled into the parking lot. He got my purple backpack out of the trunk, the one with the butterfly patch, handed it to me. It had a granola bar inside, a water bottle, my library card, $6.50 and change. There were people around, station employees, other travelers. My father's voice changed, got normal, almost cheerful. "We'll be right back, sweetie. Stay here and wait. Don't wander off." I said, "When are you coming back?" He didn't answer. My mother wouldn't look at me. They walked back to the car, got in. I waited on the bench. 1 hour, 2 hours. The sun started to set. That's when I realized they weren't coming back. I started screaming, ran after their car in the parking lot. It was already gone. A security guard found me, asked where my parents were. I told him the truth. They told me to wait. They left. He called the police. What I didn't know then, what I only learned years later when I was in college and researched my own case, is that multiple witnesses saw what happened, saw me screaming, saw me chasing the car, heard my father's voice in the parking lot before they drove away, heard him say something about worthless to my mother. The police put out an Amber Alert, found my parents at home 6 hours later, arrested them, both of them, charged them with felony child endangerment and child desertion. They went to trial, pleaded no contest in August 2005. My father got 18 months in San Diego County Jail. My mother got 12 months. Their medical licenses were suspended. I didn't know any of this when it happened. I was 8 years old, in foster care, traumatized. The Brennans, my adoptive parents, made a choice not to tell me the details until I was older. They wanted to protect me. Let me be a child. I found out when I was 22, doing an internship in genetic counseling. I was researching trauma responses in children who'd been in the system. I looked up my own case, found the news articles. La Jolla doctor jailed for child abandonment. Oncologist and wife sentenced in train station desertion case. I sat in the university library and read about my own life like it had happened to someone else. My father served his time, got his license back in 2008, completed rehabilitation, anger management, parenting classes. My mother served her time, got out in 2006, attended mandatory therapy. By the time they were released, I'd been adopted by the Brennans. I had a new last name, a new life. A restraining order kept them from contacting me until I turned 18. They never tried. Not in 2015 when I graduated high school. Not in 2019 when I graduated college. Not in 2023 when I got married. 20 years of silence, until this morning, until they needed something. After the train station, I spent 3 days in the hospital. Dehydration, malnutrition, shock. A woman named Patricia Owens came to see me. She was a social worker. She had kind eyes and a soft voice, and she told me my parents weren't coming. She told me I was safe now. I didn't believe her. I went into emergency foster care. A woman named Dorothy. She had 4 other kids in the house. I slept on a cot in the hallway. She meant well, but she was overwhelmed. I lasted 3 months there. Then I went to a family called the Washingtons. They were nice, but they were temporary. Emergency placement only. I was there for 6 months, then the Kowalskis, then the Pratts. 4 homes in 18 months. I learned not to unpack my suitcase all the way. Learned to keep my toothbrush in my backpack. Learned that when adults said, "This is your home now," they meant, for now. In 2007, when I was 10 years old, Patricia Owens came back. She said she'd found a family, a real family, permanent if it worked out. Helen and Roger Brennan, both teachers, mid-40s, couldn't have biological children, wanted to adopt an older child. They met me at a park. Helen brought sandwiches. Roger brought a Frisbee. Helen asked me about school, what I liked to read, if I had a favorite subject. Roger asked if I wanted to throw the Frisbee. I said yes. I don't know why I said yes. I'd said no to everything for 2 years. No to other foster families. No to therapy. No to hope. But something about Roger's face, the way he asked, like it was okay if I said no, like my answer mattered. We threw the Frisbee for 20 minutes. Then Helen said, "Regina, we're not trying to replace anyone. We'd really like to be your family, if you'll let us." I asked, "What if I'm not good enough?" Roger knelt down, looked at me directly. "Sweetheart, you're already more than enough." I cried for the first time since the train station. They took me home that day, started the trial period, 3 months to see if it would work. It worked. Helen taught me to bake bread, showed me how yeast rises, how you have to be patient, how some things can't be rushed. Roger taught me to change the oil in his car, taught me about maintenance, about taking care of things so they last. They didn't make me call them Mom and Dad, said I could call them Helen and Roger, or whatever felt right. After 6 months, I started calling them Mom and Dad. The adoption was finalized in December 2007. I was 10 years old. Judge Lindstrom asked me, "Regina, do you want the Brennans to adopt you?" I said yes. I meant it. I grew up in a normal house. homework at the kitchen table, family dinners, Helen asking about my day, Roger helping with math homework. I went to therapy, a woman named Dr. Reyes. She was patient, never pushed, let me talk when I was ready. I told her about Owen, about being born to save him, about failing. She told me something I've never forgotten. She said, "Regina, you were a child, not a cure. You didn't fail. The disease won. That's not the same thing." I didn't believe her for years, but I kept going to therapy. I graduated high school in 2015, top of my class, debate team, science fair ribbons, AP biology. Helen and Roger cried at graduation. I gave a speech, valedictorian address. I said, "Family isn't biology, it's who shows up." I meant it. What I didn't know was that my biological parents were in the parking lot, watching. I didn't see them. I went to college, University of Denver, majored in genetics, minored in bioethics. My advisor asked me why genetics. I said, "I want to help families make better choices than mine did." I wrote my thesis on Save Your Siblings, on the ethics of creating children through genetic selection for medical purposes. I got my degree in genetic counseling in 2019, got a job at Denver Genetic Counseling Center. I specialized in helping families navigate hereditary diseases, prenatal testing, reproductive choices. The irony wasn't lost on me. In 2023, I married Micah Torres. He's a paramedic. We met when I fainted at a coffee shop. Low blood sugar. He was off duty but stopped to help anyway. We dated for 2 years. He knew about my past, about the train station, about being adopted. He never pushed for details. When he proposed, he said, "I don't care where you came from. I care where we're going." I said yes. We got married in Helen and Roger's backyard. Small wedding. Just family. Real family. The Garrisons weren't invited. Now it's November 2025. I'm 8 weeks pregnant. Micah and I have been trying for 6 months. This is our first positive test. We're terrified and thrilled in equal measure. My OB appointment is scheduled for tomorrow. Week 8 checkup. Hear the heartbeat for the first time. And this morning, my phone exploded with 29 missed calls from the people who left me at a train station 20 years ago. I sat on the bathroom floor. Micah sat next to me. "What are you going to do?" he asked. I didn't know. I'm a genetic counselor. I help families with exactly this kind of decision. Transplant ethics, sibling compatibility, medical intervention. But this isn't a case file. This is my body, my bone marrow, my sister who I didn't know existed, my pregnancy, my baby. I called Helen and Roger. Helen answered on the second ring. "Honey, it's early. Are you okay?" "Mom, I need to talk to you. Can I come over?" "Of course, always. I'll make coffee." Roger's voice in the background. "I'll make coffee. You burn it." I almost smiled. Micah drove me to their house. 20 minutes from our place in Capitol Hill to their home in Highlands Ranch. Helen opened the door before I knocked, pulled me into a hug. "Tell us what happened." I told them everything. The calls, the voicemails, Paige, the leukemia, the bone marrow match. Helen's face went pale. Roger said, "You don't owe them anything." I said, "It's not about them. There's a 12-year-old girl dying." Helen said, "You're 8 weeks pregnant. What did your doctor say?" I hadn't called my doctor yet. Roger said, "Regina, sweetheart, what do you want to do?" That was the question, wasn't it? What did I want? I wanted to never have gotten those calls. I wanted my biological parents to have never existed. I wanted to have been born into a family that loved me for being me, not for what I could provide. But none of that was an option. "I need to see her," I said. "Paige, I need to see her, and then I'll decide." Helen and Roger looked at each other. That look that long married couples have. The whole conversation in a glance. Helen said, "Do you want us to come with you?" I said, "Not yet, but I might need you soon." I flew to San Diego that afternoon, left Micah in Denver. He wanted to come. I said no. This was something I needed to do alone. I landed at San Diego International at 4:30, rented a car, drove to UCSD Medical Center. I sat in the parking garage for 20 minutes, level 3, spot 312. My hand on my stomach. 8 weeks. Tiny cluster of cells. Not even the size of a raspberry yet. You're safe, I whispered. I'll keep you safe. My phone buzzed. Unknown number, text message. Regina, it's Beatrice, your mother. We're in room 4 West 18. Please, just 5 minutes. Your mother. I deleted the message. Helen Brennan is my mother. Beatrice Garrison is the woman who gave birth to me and then threw me away. I went inside. Pediatric oncology is always the same. No matter the hospital. Bright colors. Murals on the walls. Toys in the waiting room. All of it trying to make children forget they're dying. 4th floor, West Wing, room 418. They were waiting in the hallway. Felix and Beatrice Garrison. 20 years older than my last memory. My father balding, wire-rimmed glasses. Same clinical detachment in his eyes. My mother gray-haired. Thinner. Hands shaking. Beatrice saw me first, started crying. Regina, thank God, you came. I didn't think... I cut her off. I'm not here for you. I'm here to assess the patient. Professionally. My voice was cold. Clinical. The voice I use at work when I need distance. Felix said, of course, whatever you need. He didn't try to hug me. Neither did she. Good. I said, does she know who I am? Felix said, we told her you're a genetic match. A distant relative. You lied to her too. Of course you did. Beatrice flinched. I said, I'm going in alone. I opened the door to room 418. Paige Garrison was 12 years old. Bald from chemotherapy. Pale. IV lines in both arms. A stuffed elephant on the bed. She was reading Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. She looked up when I came in. She had Owen's eyes. The same green-gold hazel. The same freckle pattern on her nose. They'd selected for that. Deliberately. Made her look like him. Are you Regina? She asked. Yeah, hi. They said you might be able to help me. Are you a doctor? Something like that. I'm a genetic counselor. Cool. She set down her book. I'm dying. She said it matter of fact, like reporting the weather. I know, I said. I read your chart. Did you know my brother, Owen? My parents don't like to talk about him, but I found pictures. My breath caught. Yeah, I knew him. She smiled, small, tired. Was he nice? He was sick a lot, but yeah, he was nice. That was a lie. I barely remembered Owen, but she needed to hear it. She said, why did you come? They said you're a distant relative, but you don't look like you want to be here. Smart kid. I sat down in the chair next to her bed. Can I be honest with you? Please. Everyone lies to me. It's exhausting. I'm your sister, not distant. Your actual half-sister. We have the same biological parents. Her eyes went wide. What? They didn't tell you that part. No. She looked at the door, at her parents waiting outside. Why not? Because it's complicated, and because they're good at lying. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, they lie a lot. About why I'm sick. About the treatments. About everything. What do you mean? She pulled a folder out from under her mattress. Papers. Printouts. I hacked my dad's laptop 6 months ago. His password was Owen's birthday. 10/15/1995. Easy. He keeps everything there. Old medical records. Clinic documents. PDFs from some fertility place. She handed me the papers. IVF consent forms. Pre-implantation genetic diagnosis. HLA typing. Embryo selection for tissue compatibility. My hands started shaking. You found this 6 months ago? Yeah. I Googled what it all meant. IVF designer baby. Save your sibling. She said the words carefully, like she'd practiced. I was made in a lab to save Owen, except Owen was already dead when I was born. So I don't know what I was made for. I couldn't speak. This 12-year-old child had been living with this knowledge for 6 months. Alone. Scared. You were made to be insurance, I said quietly. In case the leukemia came back. In case they needed spare parts again. She looked at me. Really looked at me. You too? Yeah, me too. We sat in silence. Then she said, are you mad at me? For existing? God, no. Paige, no. You're not the problem. You never were. We're both kids they created for the wrong reasons. But that doesn't mean we're wrong. She started crying. I let her. When she stopped, she said, "Will you help me? With the transplant?" "I don't know yet. I need to talk to my doctor. I'm pregnant. 8 weeks. The procedure has risks." Her face went pale. "Then don't do it. I don't want you to get hurt because of me." "Paige, I'm serious. If you're only doing this because you feel sorry for me, don't. I'm tired of people making choices about my body without asking me. I understood that in my bones. What if I want to donate?" I asked. "Not for them, for you. Because you deserve to live. And because I can help without sacrificing everything. Is that okay?" She thought about it. "Only if your doctor says it's safe. And only if I can meet your baby someday." I smiled. First real smile since this morning. Deal. I left Paige's room. Felix and Beatrice were waiting in the hall. Felix said, "Well, will you do it?" I said, "I need her full medical file, from birth, including genetic workup." "Why?" "Because I'm a genetic counselor and I'm assessing donor compatibility. Unless you want to refuse?" He couldn't refuse. Medical records request from a biological sibling for transplant purposes is legally protected. He got me the files. I took them back to my hotel. Residence Inn in La Jolla. Same neighborhood where I was born. Opened my laptop. Started reading. Paige's birth records. La Jolla Reproductive Medicine. Different clinic than mine. They'd switched after the arrest. Probably wanted to avoid the stigma. But the procedure was the same. 6 embryos created. 1 selected. Reason? Tissue compatibility for future transplant need. Cord blood banked at birth. Bone marrow donor registry enrollment at birth. She wasn't even born yet, and they'd already enrolled her as a donor. I kept reading. Found my own records. I'd requested them years ago for my thesis research, but now I was looking at them differently. 8 embryos created in 1997. 7 discarded. 1 selected. Regina. Purpose noted in clinical file. Cord blood and bone marrow donor for existing child with acute lymphoblastic leukemia. I wasn't a child. I was a medical intervention. I found Owen's records next. Born 1995. Diagnosed at 13 months. First transplant. Cord blood from Regina, 1998. Failed. Second transplant. Bone marrow from Regina, 2000. Failed. Third transplant. Bone marrow from Regina, 2002. Failed. Owen died March 14, 2004 at 3:47 in the morning. Chart note. Sibling donor, Regina, age 6, not present at time of death. Per parental request, sibling not informed of brother's passing until after funeral. They didn't let me say goodbye. I found more notes. From a family therapist. May 2004. Parents struggling with grief and guilt. Mother reports feeling, Regina is a reminder of failure. Recommend family therapy. Parents declined. Another note. From Felix's personal therapy session that somehow ended up in the records. Regina was a medical intervention. The intervention failed. Perhaps it's time to reconsider family structure moving forward. Reconsider family structure. That's what he called abandoning me. I closed the laptop, opened it again, searched for court records, public documents, the criminal case, people of the state of California versus Felix Garrison and Beatrice Garrison. Case filed May 2005. Felony child endangerment. Felony child desertion. Witness testimony. The child was screaming, running after the vehicle. The male subject appeared to be laughing. The female subject was crying but did not intervene. Sentencing. Felix Garrison, 18 months, San Diego County Jail. Beatrice Garrison, 12 months, San Diego County Jail. Medical licenses suspended pending rehabilitation completion. They'd gone to prison. I'd known that since I was 22. But reading it now, with Paige's file next to it, with the IVF records showing they'd done it again, they hadn't learned anything. They'd served their time, gotten their licenses back, and made another designer baby. I found Paige's current treatment records. The experimental drugs. Protocol X19. Not FDA approved for pediatric use. Email from Dr. Coleman to Felix. Dr. Garrison, I must express concerns about Protocol X19. While your background in oncology is noted, Paige is your daughter, not a research subject. Felix's response. My daughter deserves cutting-edge treatment. I'll sign any liability waiver required. Hospital Ethics Committee meeting minutes, November 2025. Garrison case under review. Potential medical abuse. Parent overriding medical recommendations with experimental protocols. CPS notification pending investigation. They were doing it again, using a child as an experiment. I picked up my phone, composed an email to the UCSD Medical Center Ethics Board. I'm Regina Lamson, genetic counselor. I'm also the biological sister of Paige Garrison, patient in room 4, West 18. I need to report suspected medical abuse and genetic exploitation. I'm attaching court records from 2005 showing a pattern of child endangerment by the same parents. Please investigate immediately. I attached the files. Hit send. Then I called Micah. He answered on the first ring. How are you? They made her exactly like they made me. She's not their daughter. She's spare parts. And they're using experimental drugs on her without proper consent. Jesus. I'm going to save her. But I'm doing it my way. They're about to lose everything. What do you need from me? Get on a plane. I need you here. I'm already packing. Micah arrived the next morning. We met with Dr. Patricia Owens, my OB. She'd flown in from Denver for a consult with the transplant team, different Dr. Owens than my childhood social worker. But the coincidence felt like a sign. She did an ultrasound first. 8 weeks, 3 days? There's the heartbeat, she said. 165 beats per minute. Micah squeezed my hand. Dr. Owens turned to the transplant coordinator, Dr. Martinez. Walk me through the procedure and risks. Dr. Martinez pulled up the protocol. Bone marrow harvest under general anesthesia. Extract marrow from posterior iliac crest. Hip bone. It's outpatient, but recovery is 2 to 3 weeks. Dr. Owens frowned. Regina's at 8 weeks pregnant. First trimester. Highest miscarriage risk window. I understand. Studies show general anesthesia in first trimester increases miscarriage risk by 3 to 4%. Not enormous, but not insignificant. When does the patient need the transplant? She's in remission from chemo currently, but without transplant, she'll relapse within 8 to 12 weeks. Optimal window is the next 4 weeks. Dr. Owens shook her head. I will not sign off on this procedure before week 13. Regina will be in second trimester by late December. Much safer window. I said, Can Paige wait that long? Dr. Martinez checked her chart. Yes. Current chemo is holding the disease in check. She's stable. We can wait 3 more weeks safely. 3 weeks. That gave me time to do this, right? Dr. Owens said, Regina, if we proceed in late December, you'll be 13 to 14 weeks pregnant. Early second trimester. I'll require continuous fetal monitoring during surgery and 24-hour observation post-procedure, but I can approve it then. I said, Okay, late December. I'll tell Paige. I went back to the hospital, back to room 418. Paige was awake, playing a game on her phone. Hey, I said. Hey, did you decide? Yeah, I'm doing it. But my doctor needs 3 more weeks to make sure my baby is safe. Can you wait 3 weeks? She looked relieved. Not disappointed. Yes, thank you for asking. For asking? For asking if I can wait. For telling me your doctor's opinion. My parents never ask. They just decide. I sat down. Paige, I need to tell you something. About your parents. About the transplant. Okay. I'm going to donate. But I'm also going to make sure you're safe. From them. She looked confused. What do you mean? Do you know what CPS is? Child Protective Services? Yeah, they take kids away from bad homes. I've reported your parents to the Hospital Ethics Board for the experimental drugs, for making medical decisions without considering what's best for you. There's going to be an investigation. Her eyes went wide. Are they going to take me away? Maybe, temporarily. But I'm going to apply to be your medical guardian, to make decisions about your treatment. Not them. You? Yeah, me, if you want. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, What happens after the transplant? Do I go back to them? Not if I can help it. I'm going to fight for permanent custody. You'd live with me, in Denver, with my husband Micah, and when the baby comes, you'd be part of our family. She started crying again. I've never had anyone fight for me before. Well, you do now. The next 2 weeks were a blur. I filed a petition for emergency medical guardianship. November 10th, CPS opened an investigation. November 12th, the hospital ethics board confirmed the experimental drug violations. Felix had been pressuring staff to administer unapproved treatments, overriding medical recommendations. Dr. Sarah Chen, chair of the ethics board, testified in my hearing. The hearing was set for November 20th. Emergency session. Judge Rebecca Lindstrom presiding. Felix and Beatrice showed up with a lawyer. Expensive suit. Corporate firm. I had Rachel Moss, family law attorney who specialized in medical abuse cases. The courtroom was small. San Diego County Family Court. Judge Lindstrom reviewed the petition, the CPS report, the ethics board findings. She looked at Felix. Dr. Garrison, can you explain why your daughter was enrolled in a bone marrow donor registry at birth despite being a healthy infant? Felix said, Preventative measure, Your Honor. Family history of leukemia. Family history you created through genetic selection? He didn't answer. She turned to the ethics report. I see here that you've been administering experimental treatments without proper IRB approval. Protocol X-19, not FDA approved for pediatric use. The treatment is cutting edge. My daughter deserves the best. Your daughter deserves medical care that prioritizes her well-being over your research interests. She flipped through more pages. I also have the criminal record from 2005. You were both convicted of felony child endangerment, served jail time, had your medical licenses suspended. Beatrice was crying. Felix's jaw clenched. Judge Lindstrom looked at me. Ms. Lamson, you're requesting emergency temporary guardianship for medical decision-making purposes? Yes, Your Honor. I'm a genetic counselor. I'm Paige's biological sister and bone marrow match. I have a stable home in Denver, and I can make medical decisions that prioritize Paige's safety over experimental protocols. You're also 8 weeks pregnant. How will that affect your ability to serve as guardian? I've consulted with my OB. The bone marrow donation will be delayed until I'm in my second trimester. Safer for both my baby and Paige. My husband is supportive. My adoptive parents are supportive. We have the resources and capacity to care for Paige long-term. The judge looked at Paige's hospital social worker. Has the child been consulted? Yes, Your Honor. She provided video testimony this morning. They played it on a screen. Paige in her hospital bed, pale but clear-eyed. Judge Lindstrom's voice. Paige, do you want your parents to continue making your medical decisions? Paige on screen. No, Your Honor. I want Regina. She asked me what I wanted. My parents never ask. They just decide. If Regina becomes your guardian, she'd be deciding about the bone marrow donation. How do you feel about that? She said she'd only do it if I agree and if it's safe for her baby. That's the first time anyone cared about two things at once. The courtroom was silent. Judge Lindstrom said, I've heard enough. I'm issuing a temporary emergency order effective immediately. Under California Family Code Section 3064, I have jurisdiction to issue emergency guardianship when a child's welfare is at immediate risk. Felix's lawyer stood up. Your Honor, this is highly irregular. Irregular situations require irregular timelines, Counselor. Dr. and Mrs. Garrison, your daughter is not a science experiment. She's a child. Until you can demonstrate that you understand the difference, Ms. Lamson will make medical decisions in Paige's best interest. Supervised visitation only. This order is effective immediately. Permanent hearing scheduled for 60 days. She brought down the gavel. I exhaled for the first time in an hour. Outside the courtroom, Beatrice approached me. Felix stormed past without speaking. Beatrice said, Regina, please, can I still see her? The order allows supervised visits, if Paige wants to see you. Does she? I don't know. You'll have to ask her. Actually ask her. Listen to her answer. Beatrice looked at me. Really looked at me. You turned out okay, despite us. Not because of you. She nodded. I know. I know that. I'm sorry. I know it doesn't matter now. But I'm sorry. Felix called from down the hall. Beatrice, let's go. She walked away. I wasn't sure if I believed her apology, but I didn't care. I had what I needed. Micah and I went back to the hotel. I called Helen and Roger. Helen answered, Honey? How did it go? I won. I have temporary guardianship. I'm bringing Paige home. She started crying. Oh, sweetheart. I'm so proud of you. Roger in the background. We're coming out there. We'll help you bring her home. You don't have to. We want to. She's family now, our granddaughter. I started crying too. Micah held me while I cried. When I stopped, he said, You did it. You actually did it. Now comes the hard part. The donation? No, telling them the price. I went back to the hospital the next day. Asked to speak with Felix and Beatrice. Supervised meeting. Hospital social worker present. They came to a conference room. Sat across from me. Felix said, What do you want? Money? We can pay for the procedure. I don't want your money. Then what? I leaned forward. They went to prison for 18 months and 12 months. You got your licenses back, your careers back, your lives back. You thought the debt was paid. Beatrice said quietly, It wasn't enough. We know that. But I didn't get anything back. No apology, no explanation, no acknowledgement. You threw me away when I failed to save Owen, and then you made another child to use as spare parts. So here's the price. I laid it out. I'm donating bone marrow to Paige. But I'm taking custody of her. Permanent custody. She'll live with me in Denver. You'll have supervised visitation if she wants to see you. That's her choice, not yours. Felix's face went red. You can't. I already did. Judge's order. Effective immediately. This is kidnapping. No, this is accountability. But I'm not done. I pulled out my phone, showed them an email. I've also reported you to the California Medical Board for the experimental drug protocols, for using your position as a physician to override medical recommendations for your own child, for pattern behavior spanning 20 years. You have no evidence? I have court records from 2005, Hospital Ethics Board findings from 2025, Paige's medical files showing unapproved treatments, witness statements from UCSD staff, and I have my own case. Documented genetic selection, documented abandonment, documented criminal conviction. Beatrice was shaking. I kept going. The medical board is opening an investigation. This is your second ethics violation. The first one got your license suspended when you went to prison. This one might cost you your license permanently. Felix stood up. You vindictive little... Schafestos. The social worker stepped in. Dr. Garrison, sit down. He sat. I said, I'm not doing this for revenge. Revenge would be letting Paige die to punish you. I'm saving her. But I'm doing it my way. And I'm making sure you never get the chance to create another designer baby, to use another child as a tool. Beatrice said, What do you want from us? Nothing. I don't want anything from you. I want you to stay away from Paige. I want you to understand that children are not experiments, not medical interventions, not spare parts. We're people. I stood up. That's the price. Your daughter, your reputation, your career. You're about to learn a very expensive lesson. And this time, I'm the one who sets the terms. I left. Micah was waiting in the hall. How do you feel? He asked. Free. The bone marrow donation was scheduled for December 27, 2025. I was 13 weeks and 5 days pregnant. Early second trimester. Dr. Owens approved it. Paige was stable. Her current chemo holding the leukemia at bay. Helen and Roger flew out to San Diego. Helped me prepare Paige for the transition to Denver. She didn't have much. Some clothes, books, the stuffed elephant. Helen bought her a new purple backpack with a butterfly patch. Paige looked at it, looked at me. I said, I had one just like it, a long time ago. She understood. The night before the procedure, Paige and I talked. She said, "What if it doesn't work? What if my body rejects your marrow? Then we try again. Or we find another way." But Paige, listen. Even if this doesn't work, you're still worth saving. You're still worth everything. Will you still want me? After? If I'm not your responsibility anymore? Paige, you're my sister. Not because they made us that way. Because we chose it. That makes you my responsibility forever. She handed me something. A drawing. 2 girls holding hands. One with a belly bump. One bald. Caption, Sisters. I put it in my wallet. December 27th, 2025, 6 in the morning. UCSD Medical Center. Surgery prep. Micah held my hand while they put in the IV. Helen kissed my forehead. Roger said, "We'll be right here when you wake up." The anesthesiologist said, "Regina, count backwards from 10. 10, 9, 8. I thought about Paige. About my baby. About the choice I was making. 7, 6, 5. About breaking the cycle. 4, 3, 2. About being more than a tool. 1. Black. I woke up 4.5 hours later, groggy. Pain in my hip where they'd harvested the marrow. Micah was there. "Hey, you're okay. Baby's okay." I started crying. "I didn't kill our baby?" "No, love. You saved 2 lives today." Dr. Martinez came in. "The harvest went perfectly. Excellent yield. More than enough for Paige's transplant. She's in surgery now." I slept. Woke up again 6 hours later. Paige was out of surgery. The transplant successful. Now the waiting game. Would her body accept the marrow? Build new blood cells? Fight off infection? I stayed in San Diego for a week. Recovery, fetal monitoring, everything looked good. Paige was in isolation. Immune system compromised, but stable. I visited her every day. Through the glass. She waved. I waved back. 2 weeks later, early January, they confirmed it. Engraftment successful. Her body was accepting my bone marrow. Making new blood cells. White blood cells climbing. Immune system rebuilding. Dr. Martinez said, "Paige, your new immune system is working. Regina's cells are making new blood. You're going to be okay." Paige cried. I cried. Micah cried. Helen and Roger cried. We all cried. Court hearing for permanent guardianship. Judge Lindstrom reviewed the case. CPS reports. Medical updates. Paige's wishes. Felix didn't attend. Sent his lawyer. Beatrice sat in the back. Alone. The judge said, "Based on the evidence presented, and the child's clearly stated preference, I'm granting permanent legal guardianship to Regina Lamson. Mrs. Garrison, do you wish to contest?" Beatrice stood. "No, Your Honor. I signed voluntary relinquishment papers. I won't fight it." The judge looked surprised. "Are you certain?" "Yes. Paige deserves better than me. She deserves Regina." Gavel down. Permanent guardianship granted. Paige was officially mine. Outside the courtroom, Beatrice approached one more time. "Can I talk to her? Just for a minute?" I looked at Paige. "Do you want to?" She nodded. We stepped aside. Let them talk. I couldn't hear what they said. But I saw Paige crying. Saw Beatrice crying. Saw them hug. When Paige came back, she said she's sorry. And that she's glad I have you. "Do you want to see her again?" "Maybe, someday, but not now." "Okay, your choice." We flew back to Denver the next day. Paige had been living with us for 6 weeks. She had her own room. Purple walls. Glow-in-the-dark stars on the ceiling. Helen and Roger came over every Sunday, made dinner, taught Paige to bake bread. She called them Grandma and Grandpa. They cried every time. I was 19 weeks pregnant. Belly starting to show. Paige came with me to the ultrasound appointment. 20-week anatomy scan. The tech said, "Do you want to know the sex?" I looked at Paige. "What do you think? Should we find out?" She grinned. "Yes. I want to know if I'm getting a niece or nephew." The tech laughed. "Well, you're getting a nephew. It's a boy." Paige screamed. Happy scream. "I'm going to be an aunt." I was crying. Again, pregnancy hormones. The tech showed us the screen. Baby boy. Healthy. Perfect measurements. Heart rate strong. Paige said, "What are you going to name him?" I looked at Micah. We'd talked about this. Owen James Torres, I said. Owen after my brother. James after Micah's grandfather. Paige said, Owen would like that. Yeah, he would. The California Medical Board concluded their investigation. Dr. Felix Garrison's medical license was permanently revoked. Pattern of ethics violations spanning 2 decades. Criminal conviction for child endangerment in 2005. Experimental treatment protocols without proper oversight in 2025. He lost his license, his career, his reputation. The news ran the story. La Jolla doctor loses license in designer baby scandal. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt nothing. He was just a man now. No power, no control. Just a man who'd made terrible choices. In August 2026, I testified before the California State Assembly, Committee on Health, Bill AB 2847, the Savior Sibling Protection Act. Proposed legislation requiring independent medical advocacy for children born through genetic selection for transplant compatibility. I told my story. I told Paige's story. I told them about being created in a lab, selected from 8 embryos, born to save my brother. I told them about the train station, about the prison sentences, about the second designer baby. I told them about taking custody, about breaking the cycle. The committee listened. The bill passed. Not because of me alone, but I was part of it. Systemic change, small but real. June 2026, Owen James Torres was born. 7 pounds 4 ounces, healthy, perfect. Paige was in the delivery room. She asked if she could be. I said yes. When they put Owen in my arms, Paige said, "He's so small." Micah said, "You were that small once." She touched his tiny hand. He grabbed her finger. She said, "Hi, Owen. I'm your Aunt Paige. I'm going to teach you so many things." I looked at my family. Micah, Paige, Owen, Helen and Roger in the waiting room. This was my family. Not the one I was born into. The one I built. The one I chose. I still think about the train station sometimes. The purple backpack. The $6.50. The screaming. Being 8 years old and watching my parents drive away. I think about what that little girl needed to hear. So I tell her now, you are not worthless. You are not a spare. You are not a failed experiment. You are a person, and you deserved better. I think about Felix and Beatrice Garrison. I don't hate them anymore. I don't forgive them either. I just exist outside their orbit now. They don't get to define me. They don't get to set the terms. I do. Paige is in remission. 100 days post-transplant, then 200, then 300. The doctors say the prognosis is excellent. She's going to live. She started school in Denver. 8th grade, made friends, joined drama club. She's a kid. Not a medical intervention. Not spare parts. Just a kid. My name is Regina Lamson. I'm 28 years old. I was born in a laboratory, selected from 8 embryos, created to save my dying brother. I failed. When I failed, I was thrown away. 20 years later, they came back. Not to apologize. To use me again. This time I had a choice. I chose to save my sister. Not for them. For her. I chose to take custody. To protect her. To give her what I never had. Choice. Voice. Love without conditions. I chose to hold them accountable. To make sure they couldn't do it again. And I chose to build a family. The right way. Not through genetic selection. Not through manipulation. Through love. Through choice. Through showing up. If you've ever been treated like a tool, like a disappointment, like something disposable, you're not alone. You are not defined by how you were created. You are not defined by what you were supposed to provide. You are defined by what you choose. I was designed to cure. Instead, I learned to heal. And that makes all the difference.